We are back for episode 21 of the Auld Triangle to talk all things Irish MMA. We've got another great episode coming to you today. Carl McNally will join us a little bit later on ahead of his big fight on one of the biggest cards of the year in KSW. He gives us a great interview. We have lots and lots and lots to discuss. You know, myself and the lads talk off camera. Sometimes we're like, oh, I wonder, will we have anything to talk about for the next episode? But Irish MMA always delivers, always gives us something to talk about. And as always, I'm joined by Andy Stevenson and Caoilte Barra to discuss everything. And we're going to get into the nitty gritty. Boys, what's the crack? How are you going?
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Love it.
You must be a bit jet lagged.
a little bit tired. Coming and going.
Andy is jet setting around. Catch me if you can kind of a job. Back from Poland? Or what's going on with me?
Going to Bolton apparently tomorrow.
Going to Bolton, yeah. From Poland.
I was in Portugal and now I'm heading off to Boston for Thanksgiving.
Love it.
My missus is American, so gonna eat a shitload of food.
You're going to put yourself into a food coma. I love it. Just back from Boston myself. Fucking great city. Love it over there. Go over there if you.
Did you enjoy the Celtics game?
I loved it. I mean, if you were to look at me now in the TD Gardens midway through that game, and definitely towards the end, you'd swear now I was fucking season ticket holder, Boston Celtics fan for life, out my seat, fist pumping, high-fiving, fucking roaring. I had no voice the next day. I was like, Jesus. But it's so easy to get into the sports over there. There's like Boston people in particular, they're just so passionate. And like the roar inside of that stadium, like that's the shit.
It's a nice stadium, isn't it, TD Garden?
Lovely.
Yeah. It's not too big, not too small.
Yeah, it's perfect setting. And me being the degenerate of MMA that I am, all I'm thinking of is like, geez, I'd love to go and see a fight here or something, stuff like that. It's just a great. And I know they've had some events there before, but great city. Like, I mean, if you're into sports, like if there's somebody running around after something, I'm watching, and you know, I'm that kind of a sports fan. I'd watch anything that's going, and just great to go and see the Celtics play live.
You got to see Lucky the Leprechaun do a few flips off.
I did, the mad bastard. Yeah,
he's the most impressive person on the court.
Oh, he's carrying around. I don't know how he doesn't fall over carrying around that big flag and running around the court like a lunatic. But no, it was brilliant, and it was they played Oklahoma Thunder. It was a close game. They should have bet the shit out of him, but they missed a load of 3-pointers. But that made the game exciting for me. Though. Great experience. Yeah. I'm very jealous of you that you're going over there.
It's a great spot. Unfortunately, I won't be able to grace the famous TD Garden, but I managed to catch 2 UFC cards actually there in my time. So I was at Conor McGregor versus Dennis Seaver. Dennis Seaver versus Conor McGregor, the headliner Dennis Seaver. And I was at it was the worst fucking pay-per-view ever. It was like, I think it was UFC 220. It was DC. It was Ngannou versus Stipe, the first fight, and the DC versus Uzdemir, and they were just 2 stinker fights. So it wasn't the most fun. But anyway.
But anyway, you didn't get to grace the you're not going to get to grace the DD Gardens, but you will get to grace the Tree Arena next February, not February 24th. That's February 25th for Bellator 291. The date changed. The card was made official today.
We were put in the call. I was like, here, listen, I don't have to travel up on a Friday. Give me the day off. We'll go up on a Saturday instead.
That's it. And I mean, I guess that's the first thing to talk about, which makes it a little bit awkward for fans and anyone who has already booked hotels. And, you know, with the hotel situation lately, it's less than ideal. But nonetheless, the card has been announced. It has been made official. Yaroslav Amosov will take on Logan Storley. That's the welterweight undisputed champion. Amosov taking on the interim champion Logan Storley as the headliner. Pedro Carvalho versus Jeremy Kennedy also announced for the main card. Sinead Kavanagh versus Janae Harding. And we've got another bunch of interest on the undercard as well. Luca Pocklet, Carl and Brian Moore, Richie Smullen, Charlie Ward, Acela Juge, you know, all of those guys performing on the undercard that night. Initially, what were your first thoughts, Andy, on the card?
Yeah, I mean, the main event is not really what I was expecting for a Dublin card. Like, don't get me wrong, great fight. It's obviously a rematch, title unification, all that, very high level fight. But when I think of the Dublin cards, like, they command a title fight, but you want something that the fans can bite their teeth into because they'll just leave otherwise. Like, it's kind of it's a party night out. It's a weird mix always at these events because it's like you have the lads who are really into MMA and just want to be at any MMA event. You've got the lads who are kind of there to support their teammates, and there's like the gym crowds. There's like the Drogheda crowd that comes down for Kieran Clark, and then there's the lads who just like to ingest whatever it is that they're ingesting on a Friday night.
Allegedly.
Allegedly in the 3 Arena, who are just kind of there for the party and there for the crack. And yeah, I have a feeling people might leave, if I'm honest with you, during the main event.
Yeah, I think that's the problem when you don't kind of have that little bit of Irish interest in the main event, and we've seen it time and time again as well. Before I hand it over to Caoilte just for his thoughts, and he did mention one person there, and that was Kieran Clark, someone who has rumored to be on the card but has not a part of the official announcement today. Can you share any light on that, or were you talking to Kieran, or his expectation is that he's still going to be on the card?
I think that I think they just haven't announced it. Like, there's a few that I reported for Severe that I think it's just a case that they just haven't announced them officially yet for reasons unknown. So like there's that fight, so him versus Keir Harvey. There's Kenny Mokwanwana versus Craig McIntosh. And my understanding is that all of these fighters, and including some of the ones that they have already put out as official, that they've all gotten new contracts because of the change of the date. So then they're being signed and sent back. So
100%, that makes sense. And maybe we might see a little bit of moving and shaking on the card, because right now, Pedro Carvalho, honorary Irishman now, of course, but only Sinead Kavanagh on the main card with the Irish behind her so far. But I feel they're going to have to prop up that main card with a few more Irish fighters. Caoilte, who would you like to see on it?
Peter Queally being the number one, obviously. I don't know if it's going to happen anymore, but I would have loved, and he's publicly said it. James Gallagher has been publicly saying that he would like to fight in the Dublin card, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong there, guys. And then he was on about California and Brett Johns. I was hoping that was going to be the main event. That I've been falling a little bit disappointed as a result of that. I think loads of fans will be as well. I think a lot of people probably thought that we were going to get that fight. It kind of seemed as though it was kind of in the making, or it seemed kind of
gave it. Yeah, they gave it to us in the last event, and unfortunately, due to circumstances out of anyone's control, it had to be kind of pulled back and rescheduled. But it is, Andy, it's the missing piece of the puzzle here. It's the Jimmy show. Anyone looking from the outside in might say, well, you're getting a title fight. But, you have to cater to the Irish audience as well. You have to kind of generate that interest. And James Gallagher has shown time and time again that he does generate that interest. And, the place would be buzzing if he was the main event. Even if it was a non-title fight, you could make it 5 rounds still if you really wanted to. But it is unfortunate now. The word is going around that they're maybe looking at James for a US card, maybe on the CBS kind of card that they've recently announced to deal with CBS. It's hard to know what's going to happen. Another big name, obviously, that's missing off the list as well, is Liam McCourt. Like, what do you think Bellator are kind of thinking? Do you think they're maybe hindered by the US deal, or do you think they're missing a step by not adding the likes of James and Leah onto the card, Andy?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused. Like, I don't really know what my thoughts are on it, because I don't understand why James versus Brett isn't just put on the Dublin card, to be honest. Like, that draws a huge amount of tension in Dublin, and I know James will draw attention anywhere, but like the Jimmy show is in Dublin. That, like, it's technically it can be anywhere, but it's in Dublin. Both
and
of them want
the Welsh fans coming over too will actually add to the atmosphere too.
Yeah, like Brett's fought a few times, and look, I know, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a bit bizarre. Like, they both want it. Like, from hearing information out of both camps, they both very much want this fight, and they don't want any other fight. So they both want it. They want it to happen in Dublin, but it doesn't seem that it's being made in Dublin. As you said, the Bellator have announced that CBS partnership, which is the 4th of February, and like that's only 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before the Dublin card. So it'd be a bit odd to put it over there. And like what I'm hearing as well is that I think Liam McCourt's probably going to be fighting in the US as well. And Lee is a fighter that they've marketed heavily, but I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to stack that CBS card for their first one over there, but
it's not that we don't want to see Leah and James get the opportunity to fight on US soil and get that kind of exposure on the CBS, but we want to be greedy bastards too at the same time, and we want to see them at home. We want to see them fighting in front of their home crowd, and that's what has made Bellator events kind of special in the past. And I feel that, they hit the nail on the head with the last event. And for me, in my honest, uneducated opinion, I feel you need to be building on those cards and at least keeping that same momentum or extending that momentum and growing it a bit. And so far, it seems like they haven't done that with this card. Most of the fans online haven't really been captured by their imaginations really by the main event. It's a good fight, it has to be said, but
there's some weird matchmaking. Like the Carvalho Jeremy Kennedy fight's a great fight. That's progression. But apart from that, you're not really seeing. Yeah, I don't know.
I would have liked to have seen maybe Brian Moore or Carl Moore as well, who were competing on the prelims, maybe get a shot at ranked opponents. Especially.
I have no idea who Luca Iovine is. I know he fought in Bellator, but I have no idea who he is, to be honest.
No, neither do I. But we shall move on because there has been another show announced for the 3 Arena, and that has been Cage Warriors, which are going to grace the 3 Arena next year on April 29th. And maybe, Caoilte, I'll go to you first. What are the thoughts on the venue? Do you foresee it being a full sale or a half sale, or what do you think would be the best move for Cage Warriors with an event like this? Obviously, we don't have any fight announcements just yet, but it's great to see Cage Warriors back in the Republic, putting on a great show, and in the 3 Arena as well.
Honestly, I'm surprised I was surprised when the card got announced. I thought I didn't think we'd see them back in Dublin. I thought maybe Belfast or something, but it was a bit of a shock. But good to see them back in 3 Arena. I don't think it'll be a full sale personally. You need to sell out to 3 Arena. You need someone with that star power that can fill an arena. Now Bellator have the likes of that with Peter and James. I don't know if any. This is no disrespect to the fighters in Cage Warriors. I just don't think any of them have proven that they can fill somewhere like the 3 Arena just yet. Maybe there's potential in the future. I think if it was in somewhere like Belfast with maybe a smaller venue, I think that would sell out perfectly. If you had someone like Paul Hughes or Rhys McGee in Dublin, I'm not sure that pull is going to be there. But regardless, even if it's a half sale, it's going to be a pretty good crowd. And I imagine the card is going to be stacked as well with the amount of Irish talent that are actually signed to Cage Warriors right now.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think, you're going to have to stack it. I mean, I definitely agree with you in saying that, maybe having that one person to pull a crowd. But with Cage Warriors, you don't necessarily need that one person. If you get maybe 4, 5, 6, or maybe more, you fill this card full of Irish fighters, and everyone will be going to support each guy that they support or woman that they support as well. It makes it interesting for you, Andy. Who are those names that you would like to see on the card that may possibly draw a crowd?
I mean, if I'm thinking of who on Cage Warriors from the Irish contingent can draw a crowd, I think I don't want to see him on the card, but I think Paul Hughes defending in Dublin would draw a crowd. I think he has shown that he can bring crowds over to the likes of the Indigo. Obviously, this is a much bigger venue, so whether he can fill it, I'd be skeptical that any one fighter can fill it. I think it would take a combined effort, definitely, and even then, I think I'd like Caoilte, I'd need to see it to believe it. But I don't want to see Paul on the card. I think what I would like to see is Rhys McKee defend the title against, if it's Jimmy Wallhead, if Wallhead wants that fight and wants to unify, that's probably your main event. Caolan Loughran should be getting a title shot against Michelle Martignoni. I think it makes perfect sense. The only thing I would say is we're in November right now, and usually fighters will fight every couple of months on Cage Warriors, and it's not till the end of April. So I don't know if any fighters who may be on this card might actually fight prior to that in say February or something like that. And then apart from that, I think you just need to stack it. You have to just stack it with as many Irish fighters as you can from different parts of the country. And then what I would also say is you're probably going to need the likes of a Morgan Charrier on this card to try and bring some French. And I think you're probably going to need a strong contingent from what I would, if I had my way, I'd say Liverpool. I think there's a growing stable of prospects coming out of next gen. I think that the Liverpool and the Irish, the connection there, I think they could probably travel over. Yeah, I don't know if it'll fill out, but you kind of need everyone. Everyone. You just stack it.
I definitely wouldn't put it past Graham Boylan. He's a shrewd businessman. He knows what cards to put together, and he hasn't failed. He has announced to 3 Arena because he's confident he's probably going to fill it to capacity, whether that's half capacity, full capacity. It'll be interesting to see.
Turf war too.
Yeah. And
it's a turf war. It's coming. It's coming.
I think with the announcement and maybe the disregard towards the Bellator card that we've kind of seen today, it's an opportunity for Cage Warriors to come in there and kind of get people excited. And I agree with what Andy said and what Caoilte just said. You stack this card full of Irish talent. You give people something to... I know, Andy, you said you don't want to see Paul Hughes on the card, and that's a fair opinion, and he deserves that shot. He's UFC ready, but that's the type of guy you need to be on a card like this, if you ask me. You have, and I have an interview coming out with Rhys McKee. It'll be out on Thursday, which will be tomorrow in the release of this, where he has said in the interview he is preparing right now, as it stands, to defend his welterweight strap in Dublin. We had the interview before the official announcement happened, but that's what the plans were. He was eyeing that Dublin card. He was eyeing that unification bout, and he dropped a little tidbit too on the interview as well. And he just mentioned that what if himself and Paul were to be on that card, and he said that would be something special. So he left that nugget in there at the end, to keep us wondering, keep us wanting. But Sean and I,
if Paul was to defend, who would it be? We talk Sharia rematch.
I have a different one for you both.
Myself and Sean Sheen did a podcast based solely around this, where we put together our fantasy card for it. And going into it, it was, for me, there was two options. And Sharia, like Andy said, for Paul, the rematch was on top of the list. But Sean convinced me throughout the podcast that if we were maybe to get Paul to move up a weight to challenge for the lightweight title.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, no, sorry, Chris. Sorry, Caoilte. Sorry.
I was prepping it and all.
Oh my God. I think, what do you think of that fight? Go on, I'll give you the floor. That would be one that really set heads turning, wouldn't it?
Well, you got to think about it. Remember that, when we had the Cage Warriors had a featherweight champion, an Irish featherweight champion before. He moved up. He got the lightweight gold, and then he moved on to the UFC. It almost writes itself. You could almost say it's written in the stars if it does happen that he moves up a division, wins the lightweight belt, and then just goes on to the UFC, and you have this almost replica storyline of a two-weight Irish champion in Cage Warriors moving to the UFC, and the story you could build out of it would be incredible. And I think he would fare really well in that fight, and I think he'd be a fantastic headliner as well. But that's one I'd love to see.
Scrap. I'm assuming we're talking Hardwick,
of course we are.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean,
perfect fight.
You look at, if you're Paul and you're in his situation right now, and the call comes from the UFC, there ain't no person that's going to begrudge him that call. He is UFC ready now, right? But if you're Cage Warriors as a promotion, and if you want to create that story, like Caoilte just said, and it took a bit of convincing for me. I wasn't thinking that way at all, but that's the way to go. If you bring in Sharia, he's beaten Sharia before. It's a good match. It's a good rematch, and it's a good name, but he's done it before. And I think he would do it again based off his last performance. And I think
he'd probably finish him.
I think he would too. To be honest. But the lure of moving up and getting that belt and bringing it over is something that Cage Warriors should be looking at. If there is anything, and I'd love to speak to Paul to ask him, it was if there's anything that would turn your head away from the UFC, it's the opportunity to become a double champion in Ireland, in Dublin, because he missed out on that opportunity in Belfast, and that must have hurt him a lot. And now he has this opportunity potentially to do it, at least fight on the card. Who it is again?
Fill 10,000 fans.
It would be something else, lads. And those are the type of fights. On the podcast as well, don't want to give everything away. We announced, or we came up with another fight. What we need is the marquee fight, which would be the champion versus champion. Obviously, you got Rhys McKee and Jimmy Wallhead, which is a unification bout as well. You can put any one of those, whichever main event, co-main event, it doesn't really matter. That's on top of the card. Obviously, we're going to have Caoilte Loughran, who rightfully deserves, in my opinion, the shot against Martignoni. There's your 3 title fights. We had. I said I don't want to ruin it. I'm just going to name out our main.
Keep going.
I'm going to stay going. Well, and this one is going to get you going. What about the return of an Irish legend in the light heavyweight division? Modestas Bukauskas versus Chris Fields.
Ooh,
Jesus Christ, that's a great shout.
How would you like those apples? No, I can't take.
That's actually a great way of pulling in punters as well.
That's what we're talking about. That's what you're going to have to do. You have to think outside of the box. I can't take credit for that. It was Sean that mentioned that, but I will take credit for the next fight, the opening fight on the card. And for me, it's Ryan Shelley or James Sheehan can open the card. For me, if someone opened the card, I think if
this is a main card or
this would be this would be to open up the main card, and the fight is Ryan Shelley versus Luke Riley. That's what I want to see.
That's a scrap.
That is a scrap. And then you have James Jimbo Slice. Obviously deserves it. He's in title contention now. Give him a big fight in the welterweight division. But that's what Cage Warriors are going to have to be thinking. And you tell me, if a card like that was announced, would you be more excited to watch that card or watch the current Bellator card that has been announced? I'll ask you that question, Caoilte.
Well, fight for fight, I think honestly, fight for fight, the Bellator card is stronger. In terms of like level, quality, you name it. But in terms of getting fans engaged, as it stands right now, I think looking at social media, everything, I think the response will be more so on the Cage Warriors side personally, until we see more announcements from Bellator. Like we need a full card for both, but early signs would lean me in favor towards Cage Warriors. But that's not to say that if Bellator start pulling out a few mad fights and then they've been saving these big ones for us, that could pull us all back in again. It's hard to know. We could be critical now, but we could be fucking loving them there.
Yeah. It's a bit of an unfair question too, I guess, because we haven't had any fights announced yet for Cage Warriors, but you've alluded to it already in this podcast, Andy, is that battle there. You're having an event in late February and then you're asking people to travel back up again in April. Christmas is coming. There's going to be tickets bought, there's going to be presents bought, and that's, either a ticket to Bellator or to Cage Warriors in the 3 Arena. It could be high on a lot of people's Christmas wish lists. And it'd be interesting to see if Cage Warriors come forth maybe with a couple of fight announcements before that time comes. And
it's very intriguing, isn't it?
Very, very intriguing. And it's a brilliant problem for Irish MMA to have as well.
This is fantastic. Like we were talking about, will they fit it? Let's take a step back for a second. This is a brilliant piece of news that Cage Warriors are returning to the Republic of Ireland. They haven't been here since the end of 2019 in Cork. Cage Warriors won 110. And that was a brilliant night. But we've all these Irish, I'm not going to say stars, but we've always had prospects and Paul Hughes becoming a star in the Cage Warriors ranks. But the Irish haven't had the opportunity, aside from Belfast, to go and support them. You know what I mean? So like, there's that missing link where I know, like, Chris, you were talking there about maybe that would be more intriguing that the matchups might be in Cage Warriors, but I still think no matter how intriguing the matchups are, Bellator will outsell it because they have that brand. You can put any single fight or any series of fights on the Bellator show. That'll be a full house every single time because people just know what to expect. They know the atmosphere. Cage Warriors haven't built that in the Republic of Ireland or in the North in the last number of years. So it's like, right, you're like, what you really wanted was you wanted that Paul Hughes versus Vucenic fight to have happened in Ireland so that it could have been, maybe it's not the 3 Arena, but maybe it's, I don't know, somewhere in Dublin or Belfast or wherever. And it's like, you have 5,000 people there and there's this groundswell of, oh, wow, I was there when Paul Hughes won the title in Ireland. And then the next fight, they do the 3 Arena, like this card. And then it's like, oh, I was there for Paul's last fight. They will go here this time. And I know fans do travel over, but it's the core friends and family fans a lot of the time that travel over to these events in the UK. So
100%, and it's a very good point you mentioned about Paul getting that moment on Irish style as well, because he hasn't had the chance to do that unfortunately yet, and I think that would be huge as well as everything else to kind of get that and for him to be able to bring that support over with him to the UFC. He already has some great support, but it's like it's moments like that, magic moments that have been created in a live setting that have really created good storylines and really kind of got people caring, because that's what you have to do. You have to get people to care. And like what you said, Andy, it's like, you do remember when you're there and you witness something live, it really is special and it stays with you. And it does. It stays with you and you want people to do well because it's a shared experience. And that's what fandom is all about. I really hope, I really want to see Paul get signed for the UFC, but I'd really love for him to get the opportunity in to do that, maybe unify titles or get a second belt in Ireland. I think it would be absolutely some story, and it's going to be very, very exciting to see what unfolds between the Bellator card, because they're not finished announcing fights for that yet, and the Cage Warriors cards when they eventually do start announcing fights. So very exciting times.
If they do manage to get Paul to stick around, I want to see him paid more.
Yes, that's it. You get him fucking paid more. That's the only way you keep him
at
around.
least at least 5k is what I want. If I'm like, it's he's not paid enough to stick. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not paid enough to stick around.
Well, like you look at that Vucenic fight. That's a UFC level fight that he had to take on Cage Warriors, where he, that fight was, and you think of all the shit fight night cards we've had in the UFC lately, and you throw Paul Hughes versus Vucenic in the middle of that. That's fight in the night. So you're getting paid, and you're maybe putting yourself in line for a bonus as well. So that's, I think, probably the key part to getting that deal done and keeping Paul with Cage Warriors. You've got the venue. You're looking to sell tickets. You need to pay the fighters to kind of put on the show so that the fans will come, and that's it. That's how it works. I mean, it's not as easy as that. I'm sure Graham Boylan would say it's not as easy as that as well, but that's how you do it. Like, I mean, I really hope it happens.
Regardless, I'm buzzing for it. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. The more events in Dublin, the better.
Yeah, and another thing what I'm buzzing for as well, and we shall move on to our interview with Karl McNally, who is fighting on KSW 77 against Shamed Erkanukayev. And you're going to hear that name pronounced 3 or 4 different times throughout the interview. But,
in 3 or 4 different ways.
Exactly. But we will send it over to Andy Stevenson to kick off that interview with Karl.
And now we're joined by Carlos McNally ahead of his fight at KSW 77, the Mariusz Pudzianowski versus Mamed Khalidov card against Shamad Erkanukayev. Okay, well, we've started on a bad note here. Me mispronouncing his poor last name.
Don't worry, I'm not going to correct you.
Can you pronounce his name, Karl?
Shamad? Got it.
Nailed it. How are you getting on, Karl, anyway?
Yeah, I'm all good. I cannot complain at all. Apart from the throat, Jesus Christ. Apart from that, yeah, everything is going well at the minute. So if I was to complain, as I said, the Caoilte, it'd just be an arsehole. Like, life's going good.
Yeah, we've dragged you onto a podcast at about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So how was your day today? You're in the throes of camp at the moment. I see you've been up to all sorts, whether it's complaining about sparring or puking and all sorts. So what's today brought for you?
Well, today was actually a very nice day, to be honest. 1 second, what have I done today? See, I'm a personal trainer, but when it comes closer to a fight, more or less since the last KSW fight, that we kind of have less clients and stuff to worry about. So I take morning classes now, and then I'm kind of like chilled out for most of the day, and then train at night. Bit of strength and conditioning during the day as well. It's turned into a very nice lifestyle. So it has. You can see why people do this. But yeah, today's just been pretty chilled out, to be honest. I can't think of anything I've done apart from cook. That's more or less my day.
Yeah. Well, so did your cooking go well today?
Yeah. So far, you know what I mean. We could be up in the middle of the night a few times, but so good.
What was the story yesterday? I log into Instagram, click on Karl McNally's story, and all of a sudden your head's half down a sink, potentially puking over some dodgy prawns. Is it?
All access. So, people are always asking you, when you're a fighter, oh, well, it's always this usual ones. I don't know how you do it, and I'm like, yeah, it's shit. Don't get me wrong, it's sore. And then they're like, oh, how do you lose all that weight? So I thought, you know what, best way to do it is show it. So I just showed a day of eating, and I decided to make prawns, and I was just sitting at the table. I was like, oh yeah, these are absolutely lovely prawns. And then as soon as I stopped making that story, I just went, what is that? And just straight to the sink and threw up everywhere.
What was the story? Was it food poisoning or what?
I don't know, just the golden prawn. Like, there's always a golden prawn at some point, and that's my first golden prawn.
What's the golden prawn?
It's always if you're ever looking for an excuse to work, you always blame the golden prawn. Can't make it in today, golden prawn. It's the prawn that gives you food poisoning.
Yeah, dodgy seafood. It's the oldest trick in the book. Karl.
Exactly.
Trick in the book.
What do you call them? Shellfish. Once you go down shellfish, that's it. Game over.
Yeah.
And then I had to go and do sparring after as well, which was even worse. Like, I hate sparring with a passion.
And by sure, you probably got a body shot first of all, then as well after getting sick. Yeah,
Of course.
And
Absolute nightmare.
what was the story with? So why do you hate sparring? And you said you called yourself a bit of a gurner, a bit of a moaner when it comes to sparring.
Yeah, as I get closer to the fight, I'm a complete diva. Like, just I know it myself. I just complain about everything. Not that I'm looking for anything to be fixed or anything. I just like complaining. So I do. Like, I expect no one to change anything, but I just love complaining close to a fight. Sparring, I've just never liked sparring. I just don't like it at all. It's like, it's all people I know, all people I like, and you're just beating each other up. I'm like, what the fuck? And there's no, as we talked about the last time we spoke, Andy, there's no, like, as you said, are you a bit of a showman? You know, there's no showman bit at the end. You go home and you cry yourself to sleep. Whereas if you win on KSW, everyone's up your arse for a week or something like that. Instead, it's just me going back to the house going, fuck, that was sore, that was shit. And then you just go do it again the next week.
Sorry, Andy, if I could, your approach to sparring, Carl, is it more like flow sparring? Do you like fight simulation? Obviously you don't want to be taking too much damage if you're in camp and you're sparring. Like, what's your personal approach? Like, we've seen guys like Max Holloway come out and say that he's not sparred at all for camps. What way do you kind of like to approach your sparring?
Yeah, so I think from I've started, we've always had a good approach to sparring. We've never been take your head off sparring people. Like, we spar every Friday. Monday we do it. Like, last night was flowy, so it was, but Friday's a wee bit more intense. But it's not, let's absolutely bite down our gum shields and absolutely empty each other. If it was that, I don't think that I'd have stuck at it from the start. I think it would put so many people off it. So we've got like a really good way of bleeding people into it. Like, don't get me wrong, as you get closer to a fight, we'll have our days where it's let's test what you're made of for a bit here. And that's more, I'd say at KJ, we do have a smaller fight team. And that's more or less just reserved to us. Like, the rest of the general population who just enjoy training see that they don't have to come on a Friday and absolutely murk each other. Like, we're the four to six, maybe 8 people, freak shows put into the cage and go a wee bit harder, but the rest of it is kind of nice. And again, I'm kind of like blabbering on and not getting my point here, but my approach is I don't like sparring, but I do it, and I have to do it because it's a fight. So it is. I love, like, fight day. Like, I absolutely love it. I love getting into a fight. It is absolutely great crack. But I just can't get myself hyped up for sparring at all. I start shitting myself about Friday on a Monday.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's tough.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that you like the fight night, but you don't like the sparring days? Is it just the satisfaction, I guess, of actually getting the win, or what is it?
Attention-seeking bastard. That's what it is. You know what I mean? I just really like. I think that last KSW fight really put a nice taste in my mouth for, like, the big shows and stuff like that. And I've just always liked the actual fight. I think it is good crack. So it is. Even I remember getting beat by Darren O'Gorman down south, and we actually had a bit of a good scrap, like. And after it, I sat up and I was a bit annoyed. And then I was like, that was actually good crack, to be fair. I really did enjoy that. And like, our actual fight team, we all know how to spar with each other as well, to the point we do get an endorphin rush after it. But before it, I don't like it one bit.
Do you find that it's more grueling? Like, we had Joe McColgan on the last episode, and when we were asking him, we were basically trying to be like, here, listen, are you retired, or are you coming back, or what's the story? Because I just hound him all the time about this. And he was saying that it's not even the fight, it's the training, it's the sparring, it's the camp that he's like, I don't know if I can face this.
Yeah.
Do you find it more grueling?
Yeah, especially more recently. As I said, like, once it gets to fight week, I'll be a happy camper, so I'll be very, very happy. I'm kind of in the point right now where I'm starting to bring the weight down a good bit more and not trying to eat shit and stuff like that. And it's, I can feel my mood changing, so I really can. Like, last week was it was a battle with my head. It was like, this is fucking the worst thing in the world. The second that I arrive in Poland, I will be the happiest man on earth for the rest of that week. Unless we're kind of nervous about our weight cut this time. We're not nervous about it because it's going better than ever. But last time when I was in Warsaw, it was so warm where I was just walking about sweating and it wouldn't stop coming off me. It's amazing. But this time it's like going to be -5, -6. I'm like, how the fuck is your body going to react to this here?
What's your preferred way of cutting? Do you like the suit? Do you like the salt bath? What way do you kind of like to get down?
whatever happened the last time is the way I prefer cutting, because that was the best thing that has ever happened. Me and Kieran went for a walk about Warsaw during the day, and I just put on like a wee bit of extra layers, but it was 30 degrees, so it was warm. And then we get back and I weighed myself again because I'd finished eating and drinking by about 1 o'clock. And we just went for this walk. Sun was beating down on us. We're having good crack. And we weighed ourselves, and I was like, man, I'm flipping 1.5 kilos off here just from that walk. So I went, you know what? It doesn't feel like anything's getting taxed in my body. I stuck some sweet sweat on, stuck the sauna suit on, and then the layers, and just went for another walk. And that was another 2 kilo off or something.
Crazy. I bet you wish it was always that easy.
Oh my God. It was so we're so scared in case it gives us false hope for next time. And we've done about 40 minutes in the sauna, and that was like 2 20-minute blasts, and then just sit in the blankets, and we keep the vibes pretty good. It was a very fun weight cut, so it was. I wish it was like that every time. So whatever happened last time is my preferred weight cutting method, because March was fucking terrible.
How much would you usually have to cut come fight week?
I'd say when this fight week about 68 kilo. I'd probably start the week off, and then the day before the fight, I'm probably about mid 66. Sorry, the day before the weigh-in, I'm about 66.6 once I've stopped eating and drinking by about 1 o'clock that day, and then it's just start getting the water off from there.
Carl, in terms of actually signing with KSW now, I know you've had the debut now and this is going to be your second one, but like, how did it come about in the first place, and what was it like to get that call even?
Just got a text from Danny. I had my fight in March, and then it was kind of like I was training, but I wasn't training, and I think I was trying to get on something, so I wasn't. I was trying to get on Brave, but I was more or less trying to talk my way on the Brave to Danny. I was like, just say the Brave. And like, obviously they're going to sign me up, and it just doesn't work like that. So I was lying on the sofa, and I remember exactly the way I was lying on the sofa and stuff like that. And he just texted me and says, well, KSW is looking at me. And I was like, he's probably talking shit this to try and get me back training proper here. And I went, sweet, say yes. I'm not saying yes unless you're here training every day. And he went, listen, that when I've got a fight, I will be there every single day. And then he says, right, no problem. And then I got back to training. And then about a week or two later, he says 4-fight contract. So we did. I think Danny says he asked him for the 4-fight contract instead of like a 1-fight thing, because if I had just done 1 fight, I'd have went off the rails for a wee bit.
Are you happy with the 4 fights now? Are you happy with the 4 fights and actually trying to pursue a career with KSW now?
Oh, 100%, 110%. I'm so, in terms of fighting wise, I'm super fulfilled right now. I'm super grateful to KSW and to Danny for getting the opportunity, but it's gave me this professional lifestyle that I'm now living. So I am, because even like when I'm fighting on Clan Wars, and that's no disrespect, Clan Wars, it's like, it doesn't feel the same. It still kind of just feels like your local show, but this one here, especially after fighting on it, you go, whoa, this is like the top drawer stuff like they're putting you through.
Was it kind of like the perfect timing for you to kind of get an opportunity like that to kind of maybe spark off, or light the fire under you, is what they say?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I'm terrible with words, and I would say that's the best way to put it there.
Talk about the fight itself. You must have been delighted with Melchart was coming in. What did you think of him as an opponent going in there? Did he match those expectations? And you must have been delighted. I mean, to get a first round finish on your debut, with a vicious neck crank as well, I have to say. You must have been over the moon.
Yeah, big time. This is my other theory as well. So see the Polish fans, they're not the biggest fans of their own fighters, so they'll turn on them right and quick. And so like I seen on the comments after, they're going like, so before, when I first signed up, they were going like, why the fuck's he getting signed and all this shit? And I was like, just win, and then they can't say anything about that. But with Melcher, whenever I beat him, they were like, blah, 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 he's not that good. I honestly, and I genuinely say this, like Melcher's like 21 or something, or 23, one or the other. He's going to be a flipping very, very, very good fighter, because his movement and his speed. But I was just going, what the hell is going on here? Like he was cutting some mad angles on me, and I was just going, this is tricky. And see towards where the finish happened. So the eye injury, it kind of happened right away. And as soon as it hit, you'll notice my hand in the fight just more or less goes up to here after. I'll just keep like rubbing against. And he more or less turned into two people for me. Like, he just went like an anime or something. He just went boom. And you'll see, if you watch the fight, all my attacks are going slightly past him. And I was like, oh, I cannot gauge where he actually is right now. So it was a nightmare. So it was. And then just again with his angles, the cage is huge. I remember every time I got close to him, he was over that way. And I was like, come on, the fuck here. Like, this is, it was actually exhausting, I'd say.
How did you figure out eventually? Was it the case that you're seeing three and he's the one in the middle?
Oh, no. So I missed to the right. And then he actually against the cage. So I went flying. And I actually ended up like grazing his balls. And he went, hey, like that. And I went, yo, no, because he thought, like, I'm too fast for you. And I was like, whoa, are you okay? Because I know what graze your balls. And he was being cocky. And then I was like, it's the one on the left. It's the one on the left.
I know.
Got him.
A process of elimination mid-fight. I mean, not the best scenario to be left in.
One ball at a time.
Yeah.
Once I found out where his balls were, like, that was it.
About the eye injury, what was the exact injury? Was it a scratched retina? And you had some bother with it after the fight as well. I remember seeing Instagram posts and stuff like that.
Big time. It's hands down well, it's not one of the worst injuries I've ever had, but in terms of like mentally, that done my head in. Like, it just sent me to a mad place right away. After the fight, I was just rubbing it. I was like, oh, it's not that bad. It's obviously just like a wee cut or something here around my eye. And then I went to the doctors after. They're so, you're not even allowed to take your gloves off until you go see the medical staff, and they have to sign off that they've done this, or else you don't get the same amount of money that we're told and stuff like that. They're really on the ball. So she was looking at me through the thing, doing the doctor stuff, which was all grand. I was like, happy days. I thought this would just go away after a while, but then the adrenaline started to wear off. I was like, just starting to do it a lot more. And they all say, don't rub your eye. And I'm like, you haven't got my eye right now, and it fucking wants rubbed right now, so it does. So we went back. We actually got through. We got through out of KSW at the show, because after you fight on it, you're actually not allowed to go back out into the arena. And me, Danny, and Kieran, the Irish thing, me with fucking the KSW trophy about this size, you're not allowed past to go in and watch it. Go sit in some wee weird back room and watch it on the TV. But I was like, nah, we'll just go out. So we just act like you're meant to be there, Irish fellas, straight past, walked in, got into the arena, happy days. Me, Danny, and Kieran sat down, and I was like, fuck, I'd love a beer right now. Like, and I didn't shut up about that beer. Like, I want a beer. And Kieran was like, I'll get a beer. And he went away to get beers. Next thing you know, he's ringing us. He's been away for like 20 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck? Kieran's ringing. He's like, lads, I've got thrown out. I don't have the right access to get in the arena. So God. Sitting there with beers, and he can't bring them to us because they're just going, he's going, listen, lads, I'm actually part of one of the teams. And they're like, it's not the right access. And you know, we're quite a small team. Me, Danny, and Kieran, we're all in the 5 foot. That's all these 6 foot police guys going to Kieran, you're not getting past, and he wasn't ready for arguing back. So we had to leave after like the second fight.
That's crazy.
And then we went back to the hotel room, and then we went out. There's a big Ukrainian population in Poland because they took a lot of refugees in. We found a bar which was showing the Joshua and Usyk fight because it was that night. And I remember just watching the fight. And as I was watching it, I just kept looking at the ground, and it got to about round 2, and I just said to Danny and Kieran, lads, I'm away home. I can't keep my eye open here at all. So then the Sunday, spent the day in bed after I got a bit of food and stuff. And they actually asked me to go and see Melcher in hospital because it broke his cheekbone or something like that. Or like, it says, will you go and see him and get a photo and stuff like that? I was like, yeah, but I'm actually going to need the hospital myself because my eye is goosed here. And then they goes, right, well, our fast track to the hospital is actually closed, so we'll get you into the clinic on Monday. And he put a contact lens in my eye, and it finally was okay. But see, for the days that I was in bed, dark room, sunglasses, it was terrible, like really bad. I was screaming like in an empty room, just going, this doesn't fucking make sense. Just losing the bag, like it was awful.
Crazy, man, crazy. And you went on, you got to finish with basically one eye then. That was that's some work. That was some work. You mentioned Danny a couple of times. You know, we've had him on obviously for conversations about regulation and all the great work that he does on that end. But you know, what is he like as a coach? He comes across to me, without knowing him very well, as a real good guy to be able to look up to, and someone who's going to definitely guide his fighters in the right direction. What's your experience being with Danny Core as a coach so far?
he's gonna watch this and have to flip and say good stuff here about him. Honestly, Danny, and Kieran all live probably about 10 doors away from each other, so we do. You'll always notice the ZKJ fight team. It's quite small, so it is. We're a close little band, so we are. We all kind of feel a bit like his kids, so we do. Plus his two sons are around our age. Well, I'm saying around our age. I'm 28. They're like 24 and stuff, but I feel that age, so you know what I mean.
They the ones that were battering you the other day, was it?
Yeah. They're fucking absolutely outstanding. So they are. They've just been doing it from no age, and everything just comes second nature. They more or less feel like your brothers because we all just live in this close proximity of each other. There's probably no one in the world that I spend more time with than them, because we're seeing each other every day and every night. So Danny knows how each one of us works. He knows where our advantages are. He knows where our mental game is, and he knows that all of us are completely different. You'll never see him as the exact same guy on each person's fight day. So it is. I think that it can only be built around by the amount of time that we've all spent together, to be honest. He knows when to grab you by the ear. He knows when to flip and back off and stuff like that. He is my coach, but he's also just a guy I see every night type of thing, if you know what I mean. He just feels like part of my family. Like, honestly, he really does. It's actually strange when you think like he's my MMA coach, because it just feels like something I do every day. It's just part of normal life. He's brilliant. Like even whenever he only stopped sparring probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was beating the shit out of us. Like, I mean, he was just too good. Like, you're like in close to a clinch, and his flexibility is insane. He's just
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I seen him on Instagram, man. It's ridiculous. I'm sure you took a few of those high kicks in your time as well.
It is mental, like absolutely mental. See, once he stopped sparring, I was like, get in there, because he knew from the start, like, that I kind of wanted to. Not that I probably seen a bit of talent and stuff, and seen that I'm not the one that's going to go down the corporate lifestyle and stuff like that. And he really did help. Anything he could do to help me in my career, he's done. He's got me in the tech courses. He's got me in the coaching. And he's always been pushing me that way. But even when it came to the fighting, he was always like, he's helping you spar. And I was like, this is absolutely terrible. Like, I love you for it, but this is god awful. And now he's just passing the torch on to his sons to do the exact same thing. So it's like, kind of feels like a purgatory at the same time. Just wake up every day and get beat up by a core.
What did he make of your you serenading him after your win there?
Yeah, that was a bit mad on my part, wasn't it? Yeah, so it was his birthday. So it was. I knew it was his birthday that week coming up, because our families actually all share the same birthdays, which is also a mad one. We've all got a family member born on the 24th of July, August, and September. So we do. It's just one of them weird things. If you're like one of them angel number girls, you'll go mad for that. But yeah, he says, you want to say anything about my birthday? But I think he said it jokingly, and I just went, right, grab that mic and let's get happy birthday done. And to be fair, in front of all them people in the middle of that, like, it's something we'll take to the bars when we're older and laugh about.
Yeah, you fancy yourself as a bit of a singer, do you? I see you singing on Instagram.
I did, and then I seen that replay. I was like, oh, I sound a lot better in the shower.
Probably had you in there when the fighting is finished, we'll get you in there as the wedding singer or something like that, Carl. What do you think?
I could be the announcer for like Clan Wars or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Fighting!
I think the two lads are actually looking for a singer for their wedding if you're available.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've already sort of think are okay. I've heard you sing.
Yeah, I wouldn't put anyone through it.
But you're not only just, I guess, open about the whole, not about singing and what you do in training, getting sick, the golden prawn, as you mentioned, everything. But I guess you speak about all sorts on publicly, including your mental health, which you're very, I guess, open about. Can you kind of go through, I guess, why? I think we've spoken about this before, but just kind of explain kind of why you are so open about this and why it's good to be positive about it and open about it publicly too.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know. It's kind of it changed my life. I'm not doing the ball story again. I'm getting slagging about it. Okay, fucking Danny the other night, this fucking story again. So I'm not going for the ball story. But
it's all good.
Pretty much because I know what it was like to live inside my head, and not tell anyone, and go absolutely fucking insane with it for so long. I'm just like now. I'm like, well, instead of doing that again, just flip and be open about it. You know what I mean? Like, I've got the trusty journals always in hand. Like, even there just last week, we lost a family member, so we did, to suicide from mental health. Like, and
Jeez,
I'd rather
sorry to hear that,
yeah,
Carl.
no problem. Not to flip and bring the mood down or anything, but I'd rather have not lost him if maybe talking could have helped and stuff like that. So especially because of the type of job we do, like I can look at it from a third point of view. Like, if I was looking in and seeing a fighter, I'd be like, oh, that's a cool job. And you know, like, young men get inspired by that, and you never know who you're inspiring and stuff. So it's kind of, I'm kind of trying to set a trend that way of going, like, just let it out. Like, it's actually not that bad to talk about what's going on in your head and stuff like that. So I know that I've helped a few people, and I get a good few messages, and to me it doesn't even feel like doing anything too much. It just feels like that's what I do. I don't go like I'm the guy that just speaks out about mental health. It's literally me just talking absolute bollocks as usual. Like, but my grandparents, I live with my grandparents, but they live on holiday more or less. They're never here, so it's also my therapy, just getting to talk into a screen and talk absolute shit, because, as I say, like, fighting's a lonely sport. You're not going out and you're not going socialising too much and stuff like that. You go see your mates the odd time, but apart from your teammates, you don't really see anyone. So it's kind of a cool way to do it. And you're like, lads, it's this easy to talk about your mental health, and everyone says that it's okay to talk and stuff, but it's kind of like giving someone a car and just going, go drive. You need to learn how to actually talk about it. So hopefully, like, people can pick up, well, don't pick up tips from me, but hopefully people can start to get like wee bits of vocabulary that makes opening up a bit easier and stuff. And I don't know.
Credit to you, Carl.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, credit to you, man. I mean, look at that. Being open and honest is important, and just having a simple conversation can change a lot of things. Sharing your feelings, sharing your emotions, it's very important. So credit to you for being open and honest and sharing your stories. We're very sorry to hear about your family member as well. Just maybe one more thing before we talk about your next fight. When you're dealing with mental health issues, but you're also in a field where you're taking head trauma on a constant basis, how do you find that balance?
That's a great question, because I do not want to be in a wheelchair and flipping. I don't want to be punch drunk. I really don't. I do think about that quite a lot. As I've said before, like, I'm going to be done with this fight in malarkey probably about 32, 33, and then I'm going to chill out, unless this KSW stuff's going really well and start offering me all that prime stuff and all the mad money to fight some freak shows. I'll be on for that. But no, I'm not joking. I take my actual health pretty serious, so I do. I want to see age, and I want to be like my grandparents, where they're both still there in the head. Well, all three of them are still there in the head. That's the way I would like to be when I'm older. And yeah, it is a tough one to actually think about. So it is, because every time. But sorry, also the counter argument to my own argument is, whenever I do spar, despite hating sparring, when I have a good sparring session, which most of them tend to be, I tend to get, once I get over the fear of it and stuff like that, the endorphins I unlock after, it makes me so happy. And if I'm not training, is whenever I'll start going to a real slip. And like, as I said, like, the trusty journal comes out, and I notice whenever I'm in bad patterns, it's when I'm not training properly and stuff like that. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So hopefully I'm not 40 and still having to take digs just because I feel good about it after.
Yeah, no, it's a fine balance, and very fine balance. But look, gladly we're not at the stage where you're thinking about hanging them up just yet. You've got a fight coming up. It's on a pretty big card. You know, obviously getting the opportunity with KSW is great, but to be on a card that Khalidov and Puzinovsky are headlining, that's a monster card. It must feel great to be on and be able to compete on a card as big as that.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know who either of them are, and I didn't know he was the world's strongest man.
That's crazy. Are you serious?
Yeah, God's honest.
Oh,
that's
God.
Honestly, I'm just putting my hands up here. That's the God's honest truth.
Oh, Sean Denny's going to be blowing up your DMs over this.
I got a message from like a guy that lives up this way. He's like, "Are you on the Pudzianowski card?" And I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Who the fuck is Pudzianowski?
Who is that? And then Danny and Jack and all, they were like, "Pudzianowski's on the card," and I'm like, "Who's that? Like Strongman?" I'm like, "I don't fucking watch Strongman." You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea.
For fuck's sake, Carl.
That
Yeah.
is crazy. I was not expecting that answer, but that was a great answer nonetheless. What about Shamid? What do you see in him as an opponent, and what are you trying to bring to the table in your second fight? Do you think you have that little bit of pressure on you to get a finish again, seeing as you started so well, or do you put that pressure on yourself?
See, to be honest, I don't care if I get a finish. If I don't, I just would like to win. Would be a great thing. So he was who I was meant to fight originally. That was my original opponent, and they were kind of like they were feeding me to the cannon fodder because he's like their golden boy. If you actually go on KSW, there's like a video of what do you call the guy in the minute? I'm not even joking. What do you call the guy that's not the world's strongest man?
Man-made Canadov.
Him introducing Shamad and being like, "This is the future" and stuff like that. So
He's like his protege, right?
yeah. So he's like the golden goose that shits golden eggs and stuff like that. And then I won that fight, and I tell you what, the Polish community really took to me. So it did. I was really surprised at it. One of the so I seen on Instagram like my business. It's a business account because I'm a businessman, and most of my traffic, apart from Newton Abbey, which is where I live, comes from Warsaw. So it does. So, and I also always get messages from people from Poland like daily. It's class. So I've got a wee bit of a following there, and I think a lot of them, again, they're not great with their own fighters. Like a lot of them want to see me beat him, apart from like his main ones. So it is. So it'd be pretty cool. Again, I haven't really watched them. I don't really watch MMA, to be fair. Going from what my team tell me, like they've watched them and stuff, it'll be a good fight. And he is obviously getting all this hype for a reason. He's obviously doing stuff right. It's kind of makes me feel like whenever I was a bit younger, there was like, oh, McNally's done this and blah blah blah, and let's go see McNally do this. So hopefully he sticks to it and does his stuff, but just not in December. Like I'm here to derail. So I've been training my balls off, and yeah, someone's always got to go.
Your new nickname could be the Prospect Killer instead of King, maybe, if you get over this guy.
No, me and Andy tried to get rid of the King, and you know what?
You're trying to get rid of it, but we can't allow that to happen. I don't know if we can allow that.
You've done a
to
horrific job of trying to get rid of it.
Oh, we've done a terrible job, and my ego's back with a vengeance. Get that crown back on my head. It's fucking great.
Well, look, you're fighting on the biggest card of the year for KSW, whether you know or not, but it's a huge card. So
See, I go by attendance, and like the attendance gets me excited. Like I wasn't thinking I'm on this Pudzianowski card. I'm thinking I'm fighting in front of 18,000 people. Not many Irish fighters in any sport can say that, and to me that's mind blowing. See, for me and my family, this is just mental, completely, absolutely mental. For the club, it's mental. For where I'm from, I don't think they really know what's going on, but they'll see the pictures after and they'll go like, "Oh fuck, well done." This is the type of stuff that gets me going. You know, like 18,000 people sold out in like fucking a day or two. Like it is crazy. That's the stuff that gets me excited, and I cannot wait for it. Like really cannot wait to step in front of that many people. I'm going to shit myself. I'm going to be excited. There's going to be so much going on.
Well, that's a fantastic way to wrap this up, to be honest with you. I'll ask you one more question though.
Yeah.
So I won't wrap it up.
We've done this.
Polish fans. I know. The Polish fans, though, you talked about earlier on about, you know, they're kind of, they don't always just necessarily go for their own fighters. And even before the fight, like you hadn't even beaten the guy yet, you were getting people were asking you for your autographs and stuff. The Polish fan base, and this card in particular, is going to be crazy. As you said, the sheer volume of fans that are going to be in attendance, the fact that it's McNally, who is a legend in Polish MMA, Pudzianowski, who is a legend in his own sphere, in his own right. It's going to be mad. But what was your experience like? Because the Polish fans specifically and the KSW fans are nuts. What was your experience like with them? And can you explain, like, does that give you that extra excitement going into this one as well?
Yeah, so again, it was me and Kieran got off the plane. As soon as we got off the plane, we actually got brought into security by the army. Like we're like two really clueless people, and they brought us into the thing like, "How much money have you got?" We're like, "Oh, we've got €200 on me and €200 on the bike," and they were like, "Oh, you aren't doing anything."
You can check my credit union.
We completely shit ourselves. But as soon as we got past that bit, we this big flipping lovely truck sitting there and has KSW on the side of it, and they're like, "I'm your driver for the week. Anywhere you want to go, I'm this." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And it's just like lovely, all this space and stuff. Then you went and done the public weigh-ins and all this stuff, and people were waiting in the lobby. Like, hopefully a bit more next time. It was just a couple of younger ones. And then they brought you to the fan zone, they're like asking for autographs, and I was going, what the clean fuck is going on here? I've never been looked after the way that they did, but this is my theory on it in terms of why it's so big. In Poland, the celebrities that they look at aren't like, if you ask someone about a celebrity here, they'll probably talk about America or something like that. Poland makes Poland famous, sort of do. And they've got 40 million population. And they've got their own Love Island, they've got their own Big Brother, they've got all that stuff. They don't really care about America. Sort of don't. They don't go like, oh my God, there's Kim Kardashian. They care about making each other better. And I actually really felt that hospitality from them, as in like, yeah, now you're in our thing, and we're going to look after you quite well that way. And the fans, they were brilliant. And I get told when I was about to, so you come out to walk out, and I was the first person to walk out. So the guy was going, he walked out, you're listening, in 5 seconds you're going to start walking. He goes, they're going to ask for high fives. Give them high fives if I was you. And I was like, hold on a second, I'm the one getting ready for a fight. Don't tell me what the fuck to do here. But as soon as your name is announced, like this sea of people just start to go towards the wee walkway, and they're all like high five, and they're like, fucking yes, giving it all. And as soon as they seen that reception, as soon as I get out of the cage as well, they were straight over asking for pictures, asking for autographs and stuff. And when they seen you being so, obviously I'm going, yeah, take it away, far away. I've never had this experience in my life. They were so good to you, and like just so, they come off as scary, sort of do, but they're not at all. They couldn't have been a better bunch of people, and looking forward to going back and signing more autographs and charming more hearts.
Well, as you could progress in your KSW career as well, you maybe even make an appearance on the Polish version of Love Island. Maybe I'm sure you wouldn't turn down that.
I'm gonna fucking need it at this point because I'm still fucking single.
Well, fingers crossed.
They'll just all be talking about a dickhead in Polish, and then me just going,
do you know what? When you're talking about you and Kieran and your good coach heading over there, you sound like the Hardy Bucks on tour.
Oh my! This is so weird. My last message from one of my mates is start watching Hardy Bucks. That message was sent about half an hour ago because I haven't watched Hardy Bucks.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
That's the universe working.
Oh, that is fucking mental. So it is. I'm gonna stick the Hardy Bucks on.
There you go. That'll get you through the rest of the camp anyway. Right. Well, Carl, fingers crossed you get another great reception from the Polish fans in just a couple of weeks' time. So we're a little over 3 weeks out now. Best of luck with the rest of the camp. Really appreciate the time today and your candid interviews as always. It's always a pleasure, and we'll have you back on at some point in the future. So taking on Shamad Urzanukayev, KSW 77, Mamed Kaladov versus Pujanowski. But who cares? Because Carl doesn't even know who they are.
It's the Carl McNally show.
December.
Hey, he's going to open it and he's going to close it. Same time, baby.
The King of Poland.
King's yet only coming. Boom.
We'll chat
Lads,
to you again
thank
soon,
you very
Carl.
much for having me, and good night and God bless, or have a good day wherever the hell you are. You know what I mean? Whatever time it is.
Thanks so much.
I'm going to bed.
Thanks for staying up.
That's a pleasure as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl.
Carl.
Lovely stuff. Always good to hear from Carl as well. So we've talked about all the action that's going on way ahead of time into next year and the Cage Warriors and Belfast Cars. Let's talk about some more recent action. And the first person I'd like to bring up is Henry Fedipe, who had a fantastic KSW debut, secured the first Peruvian necktie in KSW history. It was the first Irish submission in KSW history as well. So he's ticking off a lot of boxes, is Henry. But it's great to see him back in action, Andy. It's great to see him getting a couple of wins as well. It's been a busy couple of months for Henry, and he's in full flow and rightly back in action now as well. Plus, he signed a 4-fight deal with KSW, which is great news for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see him back in action, and what a way to start your KSW debut. Like, not just, I think they wrongly put up that he was the first Irish submission in KSW history, because it was actually Carl McNally a couple of months previous. So he was just beaten to the punch there, beaten to the sub there. But yeah, like to win a Peruvian necktie is a pretty rare submission in general. But yeah, like what a way to go in and make a statement. And coming off the back of that finish over Jean Redmond not too long ago as well. And he's got some good momentum, and hopefully, I think, probably where he's struggled more so, or not struggled, but he just hasn't had the consistency and the consistent activity. And now with a contract like that, we'll probably see him back in there in the new year. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what's next for Fedipe.
Good stuff. Caoilte, I'll go to you. We'll probably all share our opinion on this one. Dylan Tuke suffered a loss as it stands right now at Budo FC 52. A little bit of there's no other way to describe it, unfortunately, for Dylan. A little bit of a shit show in this fight, really. Took an illegal kick. Referee paused the action briefly. Bit of confusion in both corners, bit of confusion from the ref. The fight restarted. Dylan got caught in a guillotine and ended up getting choked unconscious. So very unfortunate for Dylan. As a consequence, he is off the Cage Legacy card, which is another shame. But that was the right call to pull him from that fight.
100%.
Just a bit of a mess. Caoilte, what were your thoughts watching back that fight?
Yeah, it's a weird one. So obviously, I know they're looking for a no contest now afterwards, and some people could be on the side of, I'm still undecided on what I think about it. But part of me is like, if you're allowing the fighter to continue and to continue the fight, if he wins, so if Dylan Tuke went on after that knee or the kick or whatever, and he ended up winning the fight, then there'd be no issues. But the fact that he loses and then there's people calling for the no contest has me a bit like,
The officials team kind of let the situation down for me, because when you see a fighter taking an illegal shot, and I in my uneducated opinion, what we've seen happen before and what should be happening is that the illegal shot happens, the referee calls a halt to the action, the referee calls in the medical team to check Dylan out to make sure that he's okay to continue, and then if the doctor finds that he's okay to continue, we continue on. If he doesn't, we call it a no contest or a disqualification. And I think that was the biggest failure in this fight. And it's just unfortunate that Dylan Tuke was stuck in the middle of it, and it kind of hinders his progress. Now, whether you want to call it or look for an appeal, it's very rare that we see appeals in mixed martial arts. It'll be interesting to see what the outcome of this one is. But, it's just an awful situation. Dylan has had a tough time getting matchups. He's been forced to kind of take matchups like this. And on the regional scene, sometimes as we know, these things can happen. And it's just very unfortunate overall, really, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. Like the shot to take that shot as well, that shouldn't happen. It's legal strike. It's rough. And as you say, he's been caught up and he now misses out on another fight. I know the fight wasn't exactly a barn burner one we're all going to be like shouting from the rooftops from anyway, but it's still another fight, another payday that he's missing out on as a result of this. Thankfully, he has the people in place to pull him from this and look after his safety, thankfully. But yeah, it's really unfortunate for him. But look, hopefully now, I guess he can bounce back, and whatever the outcome is of that, he can put it behind him and get on with his career and get a better fight and start moving and progressing onwards, because we all speak so highly of him. We all want to see him do really well. So onwards and upwards, hopefully that can all be put in the past once everything's rectified and sorted. So
we'll see how it goes. Sound of the kick, like Jesus Christ, it was vicious.
Nasty. Any further thoughts, Andy, before we move on?
But just the only thing I would say is that, like, I completely agree with what you were saying there, and especially what you were saying about the, it should have been like a neutral corner. It should have been stopped there. But I suppose like where it gets a bit of a grey area is where the corner is shouting, he's fine. And obviously Dylan hasn't a clue what's going on because he's just been punted full force in the face. And from what he was saying,
what any corner says, in my opinion, shouldn't matter to the referee, because it's fighter safety first. Yeah, that's 100%. What you're concentrated on, not about what this corner is saying, not about what that corner is saying. And I mean, that's that's my opinion on it. I think
absolutely. And the referee should have just ignored what anyone was saying at that point and separated and given him 5 minutes and doctor and all that stuff. But when that didn't happen and everyone's saying he's fine, and then the fight continues on,
it confuses the situation
to overturn. But yeah, look, the main it's just like Jesus taking that shot and then getting choked unconscious. That's a lot of wear and tear in the brain, I'm sure. So that's not nice to see.
Absolutely. Andy, I'm going to stick with you to talk about Stephen Costello. Another good win at Centurion FC after, not a slow start. He lost his professional debut, but he's right back on track. He's had a very good 2022, moving to 3-1. He took on short notice opponent Joliver Mogang, and got a good win as well. Talk us through that fight.
So he was originally scheduled to fight Karamov, who I think was 3-0 or something like that. He was undefeated. and he got matched against Joliver Alan Mugang, who people remember. I kind of joking on Twitter and having a bit of a laugh, but like he's my favorite fighter ever and all this stuff, just because he's tiny. Like he's, for the weight class, he's tiny. Like he's like a little bowling ball, but like he's, to be honest, like after watching him, he's a solid. He should just be in a different weight class, and he's not that bad of a fighter, if I'm honest. Like he fought Cian Caoilte, and I just will remember that weigh-in where it just looked so ridiculous, and you know, Stephen was towering over him here again. But yeah, like Stephen, he beat him with a decision. I think the first, like Stephen did really well. I remember chatting to Cian when I interviewed him not too long ago, and he was saying that it was just such a weird matchup because like he's never even sparred someone that body type. So it's like you just don't. It's just really odd. So like,
yeah, normally you're training yourself on the pad. You're always punching up, and it must be strange to have the adjustment that Cian had, and obviously Stephen in this fight as well, to kind of have to punch down a little bit.
Yeah, like Stephen had him backed up for most of the fight. Stephen had him backed up against the fence and was landing some lovely teeps, and like at one point I was wondering, I was like, is he throwing a teep there, but he's actually catching him in the face, just because of the size discrepancy. But I tell you what, Mugang has this ability, because he just kind of throws. He'll try wait for the big shot, but he has a good ability to catch kicks and get the fight to the ground. So like even when he's getting kind of smashed against the cage, he just can somehow get it to the ground. Now Stephen was composed and did a good job of just hammering down elbows anytime he was taken down, and he beat him comfortably over 3 rounds. I think it was the second round was a little bit slower because Mugang just kind of seemed to be not really engaging, and he was getting picked apart a bit. But yeah, like Stephen added some lovely kicks, some head kicks, some knees. There was one point in the third round.
He came close with a knee, and it was it's a perfect tactic as well when you're fighting a smaller guy. You want to be coming in with those knees, and someone like Mugang who is wanting to probably get the fight down against somebody like Stephen as well. But by Jesus, he came very close to absolutely leveling him with him in that round.
I think there was one was that the one where he threw a knee and then he threw like a flying knee, I think, as well, and then immediately Mugang just took him down again. He just, I don't know how he does it, but he just manages to, in moments of adversity, just kind of grab onto someone. And it's like, I'd say he's quite strong because like he's so thick. Like I can't remember I don't know what height he is, but like he should really probably be a featherweight, or something like that. He should probably just lose a bit of muscle and go down, because he's in the wrong weight class. But yeah, look, it's probably a tricky enough opponent, but Stephen was by far the better fighter. Did a good job, and yeah, like he was, as I said, originally he's supposed to be facing Umar Karimov, who, if I go back and look at 3-0, that maybe they could remake that fight.
Yeah, I think that would be a great fight to make. I think, it's not easy coming in a short notice opponent. Stephen did a great job, 3-1. Obviously disappointed to lose that first one, but he's right back in the mix and doing quite well. Unfortunately, Caoilte, the MMA gods didn't shine on Dee Begley at Combache Global. She came up against Marza Sanchez. Marza Sanchez, that's a serious fighter, really good fighter. And, unfortunately for Dee, it's kind of those occasions where you don't really get a chance to get going. She kind of was on the back foot a little bit earlier, a couple of body shots. But yeah, unfortunate for Dee, but I'm sure she'll be back.
Yeah, for sure. Like, she came up against what looks to be like a top prospect in Combache. Like, Sanchez, I'd be shocked if she doesn't end up getting a belt and going to the UFC. She looks sensational. Tough fight, but look, it's experience, it's some cage time. Learn from it back in, and hopefully we see Dee back in the Combache cage soon. And because she was on a tear before this, so like we'll see her back in there and hopefully climb them rankings again.
Absolutely, we definitely will, and she seems to be in good spirits after the fight, and we wish her all the best, and we're looking forward to seeing her getting back in there again. Another person who I'm looking forward to, who made serious waves on her Invicta debut, was Danny McCormack, who defeated Maria Mazzarvia in unanimous decision last Wednesday at Invicta 50. It was the backup fight for the strawweight tournament that was going on that night. And to be honest, looking at that fight, Mazzar and Danny McCormack were the two best strawweights, in my opinion, that fought that night. And I thought Danny did excellently throughout the fight. She fought very well, rocked her almost immediately, almost finished her at the start of the fight. She went on. It was a tight second round. Had her back taken, did excellent to defend that, got down, landed some big strikes. And in round 3, she went on a close round, but definitely did enough to take that. The judges agreed, awarded her the unanimous decision. And it was just, great performance all around, Andy. And I'm telling you, there's nothing more than I love that fighter winning a good fight on her debut like Danny, getting onto that microphone and calling your fucking shots. And she did exactly just that. I mean, anyone looking at Invicta, Shauna Bannon absolutely lit up the microphone as well when she won. Danny McCormick comes in, lights up the microphone. She calls for a title shot. And, she could very well get it based off that performance and cutting a promo like that. And, she has a damn good chance of taking that strap too.
Yeah, brilliant performance from Danny, and she really, really needed it. Like coming off 2 back-to-back losses, and then I think she really showed some improvements in her game as well. Like the left hand was working for her very nicely. She was composed in the positions where she had her back taken for a lot of it was the second round, I think was.
Yeah, the second round.
But like stay composed, never really looked in danger. And yeah, I thought she clearly won. I thought that her defense, striking defense was a bit better as well, like her more head movement and stuff like that. And a composed, improved fighter she looked basically. And yeah, to rip on the mic afterwards, she kind of nailed it. I thought it was quite interesting. So we're talking about a turf war between Cage Warriors and Bellator, but I think we're headed towards a turf war between who is the best strawweight in Ireland. And I think we're going to get, it's only a matter of time before we get Danny versus Shauna. I thought it was quite interesting in the little clip that they played just before the fight, where Danny kind of said, she's like, oh yeah, there's another Irish fighter in Invicta, I know of her. And I was like, oh, okay, is that, yeah, little details that I cannot wait for.
You're
this.
stirring the pot there, Stevenson. I know exactly what you're at there.
I will continue to stir this pot. This is a great fight because they're one great scrap, and they're both up for it. Let's be honest, they're both very competitive. They will both be up for this fight. I don't know if it'll happen next. I hope it probably shouldn't happen next. Let's maybe hope that we can get a title involved, and why not? Let's duke it out. Who's the best strawweight in Ireland?
It does seem that way to me as well, that, both Danny and Shauna are on a little bit of a collision course as well. The Invicta strawweight division isn't all that big, and if the both of them stay winning, I feel Caoilte, it's a fight that has a serious good chance of happening. I think, without speaking to anyone, I know Shauna wants the title shot. I know Danny wants the title shot. They both want it. Only one person can have it.
And they should.
Yeah, of course. Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. What do you think is going to happen? Are you excited at the prospect of it? And what are the chances do you feel of it happening?
The idea of it would be just class, especially with all these cards coming to Ireland. Feck it, we get Invicta over as well. It'd be great. But to be honest, I think Danny's actually, I think she probably should be in line next. She was the reserve for the tournament, so why not? And that kind of lines up that story nicely, because that could mean that Shauna gets a win in her next fight and then another win in Invicta against a more experienced opponent, maybe someone that was in that tournament. Then you could almost line it up perfectly. And Andy could be after writing a little script for how this works, and he could be lining himself up for a job with Invicta at this rate.
Oh, we've got more tidbits as well, but we'll save those for later on.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting story that we're all going to be keeping an eye on. And I mean, fucking hell, I'd love that to happen. There might be an old plane trip for me down to Colorado or Kansas or wherever if that were to happen. I think that'd be
you should be hosting a round table like Helwani and Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley.
yeah 100%. Moving on to Cage Warriors 147, which happened behind closed doors last Sunday. We had Paddy Wilkinson, we had Adam Darby, and we had Omran Shaban competing on that card. Unfortunately for Paddy and Adam, it wasn't the night they would have hoped it to be. And, both of them kind of suffered a similar enough experience, didn't really get the chance to get going. Let's talk about Paddy first, obviously coming in against Alfonso Cabral. Lost via TKO after 47 seconds, took a big head kick and was finished with strikes. Caoilte, that was a tough one for Paddy to take, and especially tough when you're preparing yourself, you get out there and it ends so quickly. You don't really feel that you've got to show off your skills, and it happens to a lot of people. But Paddy will be back. These things happen. Your thoughts on that fight, please?
Yeah, like he would have been. He's been out for quite a long time before this, so he didn't even get a chance to shake off any of the ring roster and kind of get a feel for it again, which is a bit of a shame considering how quick it ended. There was no stopping the head kick. Doesn't matter if you'd ring rust or not. That was scary. The speed, everything incredible from Cabral. But for Paddy, look, it is what it is. Get back in there. Hopefully that Dublin card will line up nicely. I remember he was touted to fight Troy Gibson before, I think it was. I'd love to see that fight if they could make that in Cage Warriors Dublin, but we'll see what happens in the future. Either way, just unfortunate, it happens. These things happen in MMA, as you say.
Rough loss for Malahide Martial Arts. Sorry, Sean Denny. That's like the 5th time I've used that joke.
Adam Darby. Let's talk about Adam's fight, Andy. I know he was very unfortunate as well. Pretty much the first exchange of the fight, caught an overhand right, got a little bit wobbled. Ref stepped in. Your thoughts on the fight? Your thoughts on the stoppage? And we'll kind of get into it.
Yeah, rough one. I mean, there's probably even less to talk about this fight than the Wilkinson one. Like, just two rough losses really for Team Rhino. This one specifically, the Derby, it was a cracker of a right hand that he got caught with. And look, I know you can make arguments probably either way with the stoppage, but what I saw was a fighter who got absolutely cracked. His mouthpiece went flying. His eyes were looking down at the ground. I just thought Adam Darby was completely out of it. Forget the name of the opponent now again. Who was Mushaslani. Yeah, like I thought he also pulled the follow punches. I thought he showed mercy. And I really thought it was a good stoppage, to be honest with you. Like, you could make the argument, oh well, we've seen fighters get rocked with that, but I personally prefer to err on the side of caution. And it's obviously case by case basis. I just don't think Darby was coming back from that in that moment. Like, if Mush had followed up, I think he
did, like you said. It's like, we have to remember here, it's like, don't think about these stoppages of what's happening at the time. What I like to do is think about what's potentially going to happen next. And as you said, Adam took that shot, his mouth guard was gone, his legs were there and strong. If that shot had have landed in round 3, his legs might not have been there and he might have went down, in my opinion. It happened so early. Obviously your legs are going to be still strong early in the fight, but it's about intelligent defense. And unfortunately, Adam just took that shot, wasn't able to intelligently defend himself. And I thought Movetti was the ref, wasn't he, in that fight?
I think so, yeah.
I think that he did a phenomenal job to be able to, like, how difficult it is to be able to make that judgment call in the heat of the moment. Like, we did question it all, and but then the replay showed that it was a very right call. His eyes were gone, and it's saving your fighter from further damage. Adam took that shot. He'll live to fight another day. He's early in his career as well. He doesn't need to go out on his sword, and fighters don't always need to, but it would have took probably 1 or 2 more shots where turning it from a standing TKO into a devastating knockout, and nobody wants to see that. So I want to give credit to the ref, and I want to give credit to Andy Ryan, who came in and completely de-escalated the situation inside the cage and was saying that it was a good call on camera, saying to the ref it was a good call. And you know what, Andy Ryan always says it as it is. And, I want to give him massive credit for doing that. And it's just unfortunate for Adam. Of course, he would have liked to maybe continue or try and fight through it. But you know what? He'll recover. He'll be back. And, just didn't. I'd hate to see anybody get devastatingly knocked out. And we need to think of that as fans that are watching the sport, is that it's one shot here could change your fucking life. And that's the fact of the reality of the situation in mixed martial arts. So I thought that it was a good call. And, I'm excited to see Adam there. He's still a top prospect.
There also has to be, like, I feel like so often people compare these types of fights and stoppages to, like, in the UFC. I think there has to be a difference. It's a different level. And not to keep harping on it, it's different money. There's a lot of different, it's just different. And yeah, like, as you said, like, for 2 lads so early in their careers as well. I mean, but there was no issue with Wilkinson was given the time, and he was finished on the ground in the end with follow-up strikes. But so I don't think, I just don't think these were bad stoppages at all. And they're not really gonna, like, they're both so young in their careers. These losses in time won't really have a massive effect. Like, they'll be able to come back and have the opportunity to go and win in streaks and all that stuff. And yeah. move on from there.
100%.
And hopefully they're
100%.
all right, because they were two fairly hefty fucking finishes.
100%. Very well said. Look, as you're talking about money there, Omran Shaban's jab was money all night for him against George McManus.
What a segue.
Unbelievable performance by Omran. I thought, look, at first round was a tight round. George McManus is a tough cookie. Omran went in there, landed some nice punches, some nice kicks. Left hook caught McManus. I think McManus managed to get the body lock. He managed to kind of turn it into a grappling exchange at the end of round one. Omran kind of got caught up into that a little bit. In between rounds, Omran came out, and that's when we saw that man dictate this fight with his jab and his distance control. It was beautiful to watch. The calf kick was on point. Whenever he's thinking about the jab, he's throwing the calf kick. Whenever he's thinking about the calf kick, McManus, Omran threw the jab. A very comfortable round two, dictated the pace. Just chipping away at McManus. His face was getting busted up in round two. Round three, the introduction of the body shots was brilliant for me. It's just like this buzzsaw. It's just you stay chipping away. And now I introduce the jab. Now I introduce the leg kick. And then into round three, it's like Omran is in complete control of this fight at this stage. Comes in, introduces the body shot. That's the final straw. McManus goes down. And it was just a wonderful performance. Look, we're not going to say like George McManus is an okay fighter. He's a durable fighter, and that's a perfect test for Omran. But I think we're at a stage, Caoilte, where we're looking to see a step up in competition for Omran, and he deserves that step up as well, because he's been really good in these Cage Warriors tenure so far.
100%. And I think, as you described there, how the fight went, like, it kind of shows how high his fight IQ is, and his striking in particular for such a young age as well. It's incredible. He looked sensational. As someone who loves the striking aspect of it, it was an absolute pleasure to watch. To implement those body shots was incredible, and I love to see it. So yeah, it is time, I guess, for a bit of a test now. If I want to throw a quick little name there, what I'd love to see is him versus O'Meal Brown. I think that would be an absolute bang.
That's a test, all right.
That's a big test, all right.
That's a fucking test. Yeah.
They're both look. They're both 4-1. They both have great striking. Come on, I'd love it.
Let's do it. Get that shit on the Dublin card. I love it. That's a great shout, Caoilte. I like that. Andy, your thoughts? I mean, just to kind of talk about the performance as well. Obviously, the striking display was there. We seen a touch of Omran's grappling in round one, but it was his decision that he made not to kind of get sucked into that. Yeah, get sucked into it, the finish number one, get sucked into the grappling number two. He knew where he was the better fighter, and he dictated where the fight went, and just kept George at the end of his jab. And literally, he made the decision, and the fight was over then. It was just beautiful to look at, and I'm sure you were just as impressed as myself and Caoilte.
Yeah, it was a brilliant performance. Like, I thought he built on each round fantastically. Like, he was adding more and more tools, and he stayed really composed. Like, because he was just butchering with the jab. He was just bloodying up that McManus's face. And as you said, McManus is a very I agree with your assessment of him. Like, he's not someone who's probably never going to reach even a Cage Warriors title or anything like that, or probably never even challenge for one. Don't mean to be harsh, but that's how I see it. Very, very durable. Like, he'll just keep coming forward. Like, and if you give him the opportunity to go to work, he can beat you. Like, he looked dangerous in moments, but Omran just at every moment where McManus was trying to throw a jab or throw a 1-2 or whatever, Omran was just peppering him with those shots. And it seemed like at times he was almost going to kind of cruise just to a decision with just working off the jab. But then in round two, he starts working in the calf kicks, he works in the body shots. And then it seemed that in round three, he came into that round, I think Paddy Pimblett said on the mic, he just looked so fresh, and McManus was bloodied and he looked beleaguered. And at that moment, I think he rose even more. I was like, right, I'm going to go out and finish this, but I'm not going to go chase the finish. I'm just going to pick my moment. And he had him up against the cage, and he was kind of playing that the counter striking game, just waiting for that one moment to open up. And when he kind of opened up the door slightly with a lovely body hook, and then from there it was like, right, he's there for the taking out. And at that point, he just turned a switch, and it went from a composed shot here and there to just absolutely butchering him with a phenomenal combo. Dropped him, and was like, no, you get back up, and I'm going to finish you again now. And it was just ferocious, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's just that, like, that little piece of fight IQ as well, just not to follow the fight down as well when you know that you're completely getting the better of the striking exchanges. Very excited. Omran Shaban is a guy that I am always going to be excited to watch. I think he's a phenomenal prospect, and I'm very excited to see his progress in the welterweight division.
One thing Caoilte said there that I keep forgetting is his age. Like, he's what, 21 or something?
Yeah,
that's mad.
Something like that, yeah.
Crazy. Obviously, we've had Omran on before. It has a great story coming over from his motherland, Finland, to kind of live in Team KF in the gym. And it's just a fascinating story that's going on, and delighted to see his success. I'm excited for the next one too. Let's get him on that Dublin card. I think a performance like that warrants a place on the Dublin card for sure for Omran. And, there's plenty to be excited in the regional scene in Ireland as well coming up, guys, because we've got a bunch of shows coming up. We've got a really busy weekend coming into the start of December. But first, before we go into the regional shows, I'd just like to mention John Mitchell is back in action this Saturday, a fight that kind of somewhat snuck under the radar, really. He will fight on Sangay MMA. I believe that's a Abu Dhabi promotion.
No, he's fighting in India.
India.
I don't know. I'm a bit confused. It's some sort of like festival thing or something that's happening, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be like
Sanghay Festival. So Jesus,
I think there's something like 15,000 people going to this event as well. Like it's just kind of I think it might be just like a random one-off event that he's managed to get himself a fight on.
I tell you what, Indian MMA events pull some serious crowd, lads. The bloody amateur championships pulled 27,000 into a stadium for bloody
Jesus.
Yeah, they really like MMA over there, so I imagine he's gonna have some serious crowd there when he rocks up.
Yeah, that 15,000 is me just trying to pull something out of the air here. It might even be more than that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Wouldn't be surprised.
It's going to be. Let's talk about John himself. Caoilte, it's exciting to see him come back. Obviously, he'll be disappointed after dropping his first loss of his professional career, but he's been somewhat off the radar. He's been working hard, I guarantee it. And I'm very excited to come in here. He's taken on Basil Ahmed in a welterweight contest. And I think, it's just exciting to kind of see him back and to see what he's been working on and see what improvements and what levels to his game he's added.
Yeah, because before the last fight, we spoke of him so highly in terms of how fast he was rising, and like it just didn't seem like it was going to stop. And there was such hype, it was crazy. But I guess that got derailed slightly. It was a fairly simple mistake in a sense that was made in the last one, and hopefully he's tightened that up. And he's working over in, I think it's Dubai now or Abu Dhabi, one of those where he's training away. I think he's been training with Rug as well, so he's got some man training partners going on. So yeah, look, if he's got the likes of them around him, he seems to be in a fairly decent environment in terms of the level of fighters that he's surrounded with. So I imagine he's leveled up quite a lot, and we could expect a fairly clinical performance if his previous performances are anything to go by.
Indeed, obviously, John is always in exciting fights, and we're excited to see him going. Andy, did you get the number? I know you were searching hard there.
I couldn't find it there.
No worries.
We'll figure it out, but there's loads. A million. There's billions. There's potentially billions of people going to be there.
Billions
full
and
1
billion people, as they say.
Yeah. And the other thing is, he's my understanding is he is permission from PFL to take this fight because he signed to PFL, remember?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Actually, yeah. But did have a fight officially announced as well? So yeah,
that was the weird thing where they announced fights that weren't.
That weren't made. So yeah. Well, look, it's great to see John back in action nonetheless, and that fight. Unsure about the broadcast or the streaming details on that, but keep an eye on any one of our accounts or SevereMMA. We'll try to keep everybody updated.
I reached out and I was like, is this going to be streamed? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay, can you send me the details? And then I got no response back.
That seems like a typical interaction. Yeah. Okay, guys, let's talk about UR Fighting Championships, their 5th event this Sunday, the 27th of November. And as always, Decky McAleenan delivers. Caoilte, talk to me about the card. Obviously, you said there has been a couple of late changes. You've been speaking with Decky. He's been having a typically difficult fight week and getting this card together. There's been a few fighters pulling out and a few replacements coming in. What's the update on the card? Who are you looking forward to seeing compete on it?
Yeah, like this fight's lost quite a few. It's lost a few fights. A few people have to pull out. So I think as it currently stands, the two pro fights in the card are Marcin Zembala against Roger Lopez, and then Alexander Yankov is going to fight George Courtney, who's actually replacing his teammate. But MMA retirements, lads. He retired about a few weeks ago. He's back again this week. Look forward to his next one as always. But anyway, outside of that fight, we got look. It's stacked. What can I say? Like, Decky always does a savage job of matchmaking, and he makes it seem so easy. When we spoke to him for, he's like, just put on fights that he wants to see, and they're the fights we want to see as well. Like, we've got my God, what Elvis Luco versus Ronan Deegan for the bantamweight belt. Like, oh yeah, that's a fantastic fight. I can't speak highly enough of that one. Outside of that, I think we got Craig McGrattan. He's going in against Tiernan Loughran, who's taking the fight on short notice. Fair play to Tiernan.
Very good, very good. Obviously, Tiernan got that scared the last time. Glad that he's
good to see him back, isn't it?
Glad that he's getting the opportunity to come back, although being on short notice. In fairness, even I think Tiernan would be a type of fella that's probably somewhat prepared no matter what, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, this is at featherweight. He'll have a little bit of weight to cut, but it's great to see Tiernan back in action as well. Conor McCarthy on the card as well, the super lightweight title. That's another good one as well. To me, one that really sticks out is Jess Paulo versus Paul Buckley for the welterweight title. That's a belter of a fight as well, and that kind of wraps up the main card. Obviously, we got some other fights.
Paul Buckley usually middleweight, is he? He must be dropping down a weight.
He was middleweight for the IMMAFs, I remember. But that's the same day weigh and all that crack. So I imagine he's you give the allowance of a weight cut the day before weigh-ins or something potentially. So there'll be that as well. There's actually, I think there's one more on that, unless it's been changed. Who I'm really looking forward to see is Keane McCartan after his IMMAF European Championship win. He's back on Irish soil. He's been training Mjolnir. He's over in Thailand before. Excited to see where he's going to develop.
Shay Cleland, he's the lad who was a great striking.
I think so, yeah, that's the lad. I believe so. So yeah, should 100%. Be a cracker, really.
Nice. Next on tap after Ur is on Friday, 2nd of December. That's Era Fighting Championships, their inaugural event. Andy, you spoke to oh my goodness,
Cian
Caoilte. Sorry, a brain fart there. You spoke to Cian Caoilte ahead of this event.
Worse than when you're chatting about something and you're like, this person, I'm like, my brain has just nothing in it at the moment.
No, and I was literally looking at his name 2 minutes ago as well. It's just like, it's just one of those moments. But you spoke to Cian a couple of weeks ago, who's putting on that event, who is fighting in the main event against Furquan Shima. Lee Hammond also on that card against Jordi Estavia. And that's kind of the only kind of bouts that we know of so far. It's going to be a mixture of Muay Thai and it's going to be a mixture of MMA, maybe some grappling. Is there any more light that you can shine on that card?
So there is they've announced a few. I know it's not up on the usual sites, but so there's a few Muay Thai fights. So Tom Keogh is fighting Stephen O'Neill for the Irish Muay Thai title. I think Tom Keogh's last fight, I'm just getting into Muay Thai here now, he won the ISCA title. So he's defending that one. Senan Coakley, who we've seen on the amateur scene breaking through, brother of Craig Coakley, and coming from a Muay Thai background, he's fighting an MMA in an amateur fight against Lewis Beck. Tristan Barnett and Conor Nolan are fighting in MMA. Dano, I think that's Muay Thai, Dano O'Toole and Craig Nolan. Kieran Smullen, the brother of Richie Smullen, is fighting on this as well. I think that's his first MMA fight, my understanding. What else have we got? A heap of others then. And
I have one I want to highlight too, because I'm torn in this one now, Andy.
Go on.
It's Faisal Aziz. It's Muay Thai. It's Faisal Aziz.
Kervik.
Sean Kervik. So I have a Waterford man fighting a Limerick man, living one from the other. It's a tough one. But Faisal, lads, I'll tell you what, he was in himself, and was it Eric Maher? Oh, they put on one of the greatest fights you'll see this year in Thai boxing, all behind closed doors as well. I recommend watching it, and that is going to be a banger.
I think one of my favorite promotions to look at these days is One Championships, who are doing something similar to what Cian is doing right now, a mixture of Muay Thai in the cage with the small gloves. I'm not sure if that's exactly what's happening at Ayr, but I'll be looking forward to finding out. It's not happening. It'll be big gloves. That's fair enough. Yeah. But it's the mixture of them both. Like I love Muay Thai, I love kickboxing as well. I really enjoy watching just normal fights, seeing them in one championship. I mean, those are my favorite cards to watch. They're the cards I feel most fulfilled and most entertained watching. And it's great to see, Keane is thinking outside the box with an event like this, getting the best Muay Thai fighters in the country and maybe across from the UK as well, along with mixed martial arts. So really, look, it's great to see another promotion there. It's great to see an event down in Dublin, that being that we're going to get 2 events in Dublin that weekend. We'll talk about Cage Legacy next, but just let's get the ARFC out of the way first. I think it's great that it's happening. Great to see another promotion there. We wish Keane and everyone all the best with that. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing Keane fighting and Lee Hammond fighting as well. I mean, Lee Hammond, probably the top prospect in the country right now. And, I'm always excited to see his progression. He's been looking great so far. I'm dying to see if he's going to pull off another Berimbolo again. It seems like every fight he goes into, he wants to pull it off. And it's just a fascinating individual and a very exciting prospect. And we hope that the boys, it's not easy to put on these events. We've talked to a lot of guys, on camera here and off camera, and, Decky and all the boys, fair play to them. It's a lot of hard work to get these events together. Obviously we're going to have Noel O'Keefe back in the boot as well. Hashtag MMA commentary for retirements. It's great. It's great that this is happening in the Red Cow as well. And I'll be excited to watch that card. And, 2 days later, on Sunday, the 4th of December, we've got Cage Legacy 18th, and Shauna Bannon makes her return to home soil, fresh off her Invicta debut, to take on Kerry Isom in a rematch for the Strawweight Championship. Brand new shiny belt, I think, will be on show. Shauna will be looking to grab that. Speaking about this fight, I would completely understand, Shauna wants to stay active. She needs to stay active. To me, it was a little bit weird seeing this fight, because it felt like, with no disrespect to Cage Legacy, who put on always great shows, we got to see Sean on the big show in Invicta, and this kind of seems like a little bit of a step back, but it's completely understandable considering that she wants to get competition, and she couldn't get on the Invicta card, so there was a clause in her contract that which will allow her to fight on Irish shows. And I bring this question: if she has a clause in her contract that will allow her to fight on Irish shows, would there be
where are you going here, O'Neill?
Would there be a possibility that perhaps there may be a phone call coming from Graham Boylan to see if she was interested in competing in the 3 arena? Maybe at a one-off fight. We've seen it happen before. But you know what? Shauna brings a big show. Shauna brings a lot of fans with her. You know what I mean? I think it makes sense. If Shauna was up for it in Cage Warriors, I would love to see that happen if she has the clause in her contract. Obviously, Shauna has other ideas. She has eyes on, obviously, the Strawweight Championship in Invicta as well. But if she's going to be taking fights back home, if they can't match her on it, wouldn't Cage Warriors Dublin show be the perfect opportunity for maybe her to make an appearance? I would love to see it. What do you guys think about that?
Belter.
I had not even thought about it, but that would be very, very interesting. Because Cage Warriors, like, if you're Cage Warriors, like, why would you want to help someone out just for one fight or whatever? But they could really use someone like Shauna Bannon for this one. So it would be the type of scenario that would warrant a one fight deal, where you just bring Shauna in, get her to sell a heap of tickets, and then off she goes back to Invicta.
100%. That would be great. Look at the expectations here coming against Kerry Isom. There's no secret. She beat her before. The expectations is she's probably going to beat her again.
She should be going in and trying to top this performance.
100%. And that's what she'll try to do. And we'll tune in, we'll watch. Max Lally also returns on that card. He was originally supposed to take on Armin Herzig. That fight has fallen out, and there has been a new replacement, Caoilte, and that is
Gerard McDonough is the name. Yeah, I don't think he's been active. He wasn't active there for a few years. He came back there, I think it was last year, and so he stepped up. I think is he from Galway? I think, I'm pretty sure. I have to double check that now quickly. Yeah, he's from Galway. So according to his topology anyway, he fought her this year, lost at Battle Arena in Nottingham, so he's actually without win since 2016. But look, a fight's a fight. It's only amateur. We don't know what he's going to come in with. So
there's another pro title on the card as well. Decky Dalton's now. It might be a world one. Decky Dalton, I think, has stepped in place of Dylan Tuke to take on Nikola Ivanovic. So they're
that's
sticking with the title for that one. I see.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's probably going to be a pretty one-sided fight in reality.
I think the last time Decky Dalton fight was Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah, geez, that was a while ago too. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Was it that time? That long
Pretty
ago?
sure that's the last. I think that's
Check it
the
up.
last time he fought.
Conor McCarthy will take on Shea Latham in the welterweight division. Also, we have Georgi Grozaev will fight for the vacant 140-pound championships against Flubber Fares. Fares is a guy who recently got a mixed martial arts scholarship, if I'm correct. I saw that. I'd be very curious. I must reach out and kind of get more information about that, because that is very, very intriguing. Would I be right in saying, and I think he said it on his post as well, it was the first mixed martial arts scholarship ever awarded in Ireland. If that's a route that colleges are looking to go down, that's very exciting for young prospects coming through in the country.
It's mad, isn't it? Like, you'd see I saw in UL, I saw a few lads get one for boxing and stuff, but to see one for MMA, it's just like, it's crazy because it's not a recognized sport, and you're seeing, like, I don't know, it's nice to see that. I hope that becomes the norm, because like that gives fighters the other avenue as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. Like, I mean, obviously he's probably going to be getting in. He'll be getting paid to train and stuff like that. And that's kind of the biggest difficulty when you're an up and coming fighter, trying to find that balance. We've had many fighters on here in this podcast, and we've seen many other fighters who are out there who are basically double jobbing it. They're a professional MMA fighter by night, working their regular day job by day. And that's the reality of the situation of a lot of up and coming fighters that are trying to make their way in the sport. But no, it's great to see that. And it was definitely worth mentioning as well. And, it's great. We have lots of action to kind of discuss on the next podcast, which will kind of round us up for episode 21. Once again, I want to thank everybody for listening. If you liked what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Instagram. Subscribe to the SevereMMA YouTube channel. Support the lads and what they do over on the Patreon as well. We all make an appearance every now and again. We do appreciate the sport. We do appreciate the love. We will continue to bring you this podcast. We love doing it. We will be back again in 2 weeks' time. We will discuss all the regional shows, all the fallout from that, plus many more MMA stories that will magically appear for us.
Lots of other shit too.
Yeah, like I said at the start, we're always worried that, like, do we have enough to talk about? And next thing, it always fires up. There's always something. That's the beauty of Irish mixed martial arts.
Come here, can you believe that fucking Carl McNally didn't know who Puccinowski and Canada for?
Crazy stuff. But you'd be surprised about, and it surprised me. There's a lot of fighters out there that need that separation from mixed martial arts that don't really follow it. There are a lot of people out there that consider it a job, and that's certainly, but it definitely caught me by surprise. I was expecting definitely a different answer, but
it was just nice to know that for once I wasn't the biggest casual on the call. I wouldn't say that to his face.
Be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, man. That wraps us up. Once again, thanks to the lads for joining me. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to Carl McNally, who set up late to take that interview with us, and it was a great interview too. We wish him the best at KSW 77.
Beware the golden prawn, lads. Beware the golden prawn.
The golden prawn. That could be his new nickname if King doesn't stick. We shall leave it there. We will be back, as I said, in 2 weeks. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you all. We love you. We appreciate the support. Share it with a friend. Caoilte. See us out there, friend.
Slán go fóill, lads.